So in jQuery, you have what are called events. So an event represents the precise moment when something happens. So an example of this may be moving a mouse over an element, selecting a radio button, maybe clicking on an element, right? So in jQuery, most DOM elements have an equivalent jQuery method. The term fires or fired is often used with events. And an example is that, the key press event is fired, or the mouse click event was fired, or the double click event was fired. Okay, so it happens the moment that you press a key. Some effects that we have in jQuery are, hide, show, fade, slide, animate, and we're going to be taking a look at some of these examples. They're really there's really a large library of events and effects and animations that you can do in jQuery, so we won't be able to cover them all. However, you can definitely test out some of those other effects on your own, and so far up to this point, if something's not so clear, you can definitely just rewatch the video. If you need to pause the video, pause it so you can get all the code snippets down and so forth. Right, so some other effects that we may have is a callback event. And what a jQuery callback is, it is a function that is executed after a current effect is 100% completed, right? So in JavaScript, statements are executed line by line. And with effects, however, the next line of code may run even though the effect is not finished. So you really don't want that happening in your code. So this can create errors and things like that. So to prevent this, we can create what are called callback functions, and these will be executed after the effect is finished, therefore making everything else, all the other functions, wait. So the other functions that could be waiting in that queue to be executed can be chained. So that term is called chaining, where you can add functions using the dot notation to chain on those other functions or methods onto that effect. So now let's take a look at some examples in our IDE. Okay, so in our last example, we had created some divs here with some paragraphs inside them, and now we would definitely like to attach some events and functions onto these. So let's go back now to our editor, and let us add two buttons to our page. So we can come here and we can give this one an ID. Let's call this one hide. And we can copy this button and give this one an ID of show. Alright, so now in our jQuery, let's remove this. Alright, so now we need to find our buttons. So first, of course, we need to open up our double quotes, and because we're dealing with an ID, we have to call it with a hashtag or number sign, and we can add a click function. So inside this click function, we are just going to hide our p tags. So let us select them. And we can just call that hide. And what I'll do is just copy this and do the reverse for our show button. Okay, so also need to change this to show. All right, so let's save this and check out our new buttons. Okay, so let us hide the paragraphs. So you can see they all disappeared, and now we can show them again, and now we're showing our paragraphs again. So that was just a quick demonstration of hide and show. Alright, so now let's take a okay, so now we're going to take a look at how to fade in our paragraphs. So let us copy our button. So let us add a new button to this page, and let us call it fade and name it fade. Okay, so now we can add a new click event. So let us copy this function, and now what we want to target is our fade. And before we do that, let us give our paragraphs a display of none. So here in our style, let us say P, and let's say display none. So let's save this and ensure that our paragraphs are not showing. Alright, so they're currently not showing because they're set to display none. Okay, so now here in our click event, so this should be fade. Alright, so now what we can do with our fade is to say P dot fade in. Okay, so let us save this, and let's go to our page and refresh, and now we can fade our paragraphs in. Okay, we can try some other variations of fade in. It can take an argument, so we can specify that we want the paragraphs to fade in slow. So let's refresh. Alright, so it was a little bit slower. If we want it even slower, we can specify time. So you know that the time that you would have to enter is milliseconds. So if you want 3 seconds, you would have to enter 3000 milliseconds. 5 seconds, you'd have to enter 5000, and so forth. So we can now save it, and let us refresh, and let us fade those in, and you can see it took roughly about 3 seconds to fade in. Alright, so next we'll take a look at how to slide some elements. Okay, so let us add a button that will slide our paragraphs in, and let's call this one slide. Alright, and as we've been doing, I'll just copy this. So we're gonna target our P, and if we wanted to target a specific paragraph tag, you already know that you can add, you can really add anything here. If we wanted to only target this second div, for instance, we could do that. But let us just do our slide, and we can slide down, and we can save this. And the slide down takes really the same parameters as the fade function. So if we refresh this, you can see it slides in the paragraph. Alright, so this is fading in. Alright, so why didn't our slide work? Okay, so we're still using the fade ID. Right, so we have to change that. And now we can refresh, and now we slide our paragraphs in. So you see that effect that slide in has. Alright, and if you check out some of the other options, you have slide toggle. Alright, so slide in toggle up and down. So let's try that. So let us save this, let us refresh. So they're hidden by default, so if we slide them in, and to slide them out, we just click on it again. Right, so that is the slide toggle feature, and there are several other effects that have a toggle feature, right? So you can remove and remove classes and attributes to elements, and you can even toggle add and remove. All right, so next we're going to take a look at just a quick animation. So what we'll be animating is a div. So I will paste in the code for that div. So let me paste in that HTML. Now let's put it right here below this div, and it has its own inline styling, right? And then what I'll also need is a button so that I can manipulate. So let me add that button right here. And we can give this button an ID of animate, and we can close off our button. So next we will be needing an animate function. Okay, so now we're going to just add that in. First, what we're going to need, as you've already guessed, is to add a click event. So let us just copy this, paste it in, and now we can change this to animate. Then we can change this to our div, and what we want to do is enter the animate method, and we can enter an argument here that's an actual object. So we're just going to say left 250 pixels, and let us save that. Go back to our page and refresh. So now we have our div here, and now we can start our animation. Okay, so it just really moved it. So let's see that again. Start animation, and it moves it. All right, so here we've seen an example of animate. Okay, so now we can take a look at callback functions. So let us go back here. Let's refresh our page. Let's go back to our editor. All right, so here where we're animating our paragraphs and we're hiding them, if we were to, let's say, do a hide, we can actually specify a callback function here. So if we just did slow, or not slow, if we, let's say we just gave this 1 second in order to hide, and then let's say we had another function here called alert, and now we can say paragraphs are now hidden. Let's see what would happen here if we did that. So let's refresh our page, and let's remove our animation div for now. So let us comment this out and save it. So let's refresh. Okay, first let us remove our display none also. So let's comment this out. Alright, so we want our paragraphs to show, and now if we hide our paragraphs, you'll see that our alert has already fired even though our paragraphs are not yet hidden. Okay, so that's the reason for a callback function. So if you remember that we said with a callback function, it will let the function execute first before any other functions that have been chained onto that event. So to prevent that alert box from popping up before we have actually hidden our paragraphs, we would like to actually enter. So let us, inside our hide method, we can specify that we want to hide it slow, and we can enter a function here as our callback function, and then inside our callback function we can now place our alert that the paragraphs have now been hidden. Okay, so let us save this. Let us refresh our page, and now if we hide our paragraphs, it will actually wait until the event is fired before it executes our second function. All right, so that is the whole purpose of chaining functions and actually having a callback function on your event. Okay, so in the next coming videos, we'll just be taking a look at a mixture of how to use these effects and animations and selectors to make some useful jQuery components, to build some useful real world applications. And we'll also take a look at Ajax in the upcoming videos, so stay tuned. See you in the next video.